Have you ever done all the right spiritual things, yet somehow felt more anxious, more irritated, and more tired inside? Have you ever watched someone speak about wisdom and compassion with perfect words, then fall apart the moment money, pride, or desire shows up? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going straight into a topic that can sting, but it can also save a life from drifting for years without noticing. Here is the heart of what we will explore together. First, spiritual practice is not measured by how much you know or how beautiful your words sound. It is measured by whether your everyday mind is moving toward awakening, karma awareness, compassion, and steady cultivation. Second, many people do not fail because the teachings are too hard. They fail because certain familiar habits, the ones that feel normal and even justified, quietly drag them away from the path day after day until one morning they wake up and realize their heart is no longer facing the light. So if you have ever asked yourself, why am I practicing, but I feel like I am going backward, this talk is for you. Stay with me, because I am not going to lecture you from a distance. I am going to walk with you through real life moments, the kind you and I actually face. You will recognize yourself in them, and if you can recognize something, you can change it. That is how fate begins to turn. Let me start with a modern scene that is so ordinary we do not even call it a problem anymore. You wake up in the morning. Your eyes are not fully open. Your mind is not fully awake. And yet your hand reaches for your phone like it has its own karma. Messages, headlines, short videos, work chats, social media. Before you have even offered one clear breath to your own mind, the outside world has already poured itself inside you. Other people's success triggers comparison. Other people's anger contaminates your mood. Other people's opinions push you to prove something. Other people's drama becomes your inner noise. Then later you say, I have no time to practice. But be honest, it is not that you have no time. It is that your time is constantly being handed over to scattered attention. And scattered attention has a special kind of suffering. You feel busy but empty. You feel active but directionless. You feel like you are moving, yet you cannot feel your life becoming brighter. In the language of cultivation, this is one of the most dangerous states. Not because it looks evil, it looks normal, it looks like modern life, but inwardly, it trains the mind to be pulled by conditions. And when the mind is pulled by conditions, it becomes easy to slip into the very habits that create regression. Today, I want to share 8 of those habits. I will not deliver them like a cold checklist. I will weave them into stories, because stories land in the heart. And when the heart understands, practice becomes natural again. Here is the first habit: being tightly bound by this life only. When I say that, some people immediately resist. They say, I have responsibilities. I have work. I have family. I have bills. Of course I do. That is life. And you are right. Genuine teachings never ask you to abandon responsibility. What they ask is something subtler and far more powerful. Do not place your entire sense of safety, identity, and worth into the outcomes of this one life, because once you do that, your mind becomes fragile. A small change in money makes you panic. A small change in status makes you angry. A small criticism makes you defensive. A small loss makes you collapse. You begin to cling, and clinging is the engine of suffering. I once met a man. Let us call him Daniel. He was the kind of person everyone praises as hardworking. He worked full-time, took extra gigs at night, and still tried to be a present father on weekends. Every so often he would say, I want to practice. He bought books, He saved talks. He made vows. But when I asked him how it was going, he always answered the same way. No time. Then one day his body forced him to listen. A doctor warned him that his stress was becoming dangerous. That night he sat in his car and cried. Not a dramatic cry. A quiet one. The kind that comes when you realize you have been running for so long that you forgot what you were running toward. He told me something that still echoes in my mind. He said, I thought I was doing it for my family. But when I look honestly, I am being driven by fear. Fear of falling behind. Fear of being looked down on. Fear that my children will lose. Fear that I will have no value if I cannot provide more and more. Do you see the trap? On the outside, it looks like responsibility. On the inside, it is bondage. It is not life you are living. It is fear that is living you. The turning point in cultivation is often not that you suddenly have more free time. It is that you suddenly see impermanence clearly. You realize that no matter how hard you cling, life will change. Bodies age, jobs shift, relationships transform, conditions rise and fall. And if your peace depends entirely on conditions, you will never be at peace. When a person truly understands impermanence, something changes. They still work, but work is no longer their God. They still love family, but love is no longer control or bargaining. They still seek a better life, but they no longer trade away their inner integrity for a little more comfort or applause. They begin to take back the steering wheel of their fate by doing something simple. They pause. They breathe. They return. Even 10 minutes of mindful breathing, even a short recitation, even a quiet vow before the day begins. It is not the length. It is the direction. Here is the second habit, letting character and conduct loosen while pretending knowledge is enough. This one is uncomfortable because it sounds moral, but it is not about being morally superior. It is about inner coherence. If your mouth speaks compassion while your hands calculate advantage, your heart becomes split. If your mouth speaks karma while your actions chase shortcuts, your heart becomes split. If your mouth speaks humility while your mind wants praise, your heart becomes split. A split heart cannot settle. A split heart cannot enter real stillness. A split heart cannot develop stable wisdom. And over time, a person with a split heart begins to feel strangely hollow. They might still participate in spiritual activities, but instead of becoming softer and clearer, they become more irritated and restless. Eventually they conclude, practice does not work. But what failed was not practice. What failed was integrity. Practice is not makeup. It cannot cover a habit of deception, exploitation, or cruelty. Practice is sunlight. When sunlight shines, it reveals what is hidden. And if what is hidden is not faced, the person runs away from the light. I have seen people who understand concepts quickly. They can explain teachings beautifully. They can quote lines about non-attachment and compassion. But when a real conflict appears, a business deal, an argument, a temptation, they react exactly as before, sometimes worse. Why worse? Because they have learned to use spiritual language as a weapon. They call their anger truth. They call their coldness detachment. They call their pride right view. This is one of the most tragic forms of regression because it feels like progress. It feels like you are wise. But inside, the ego is growing stronger. If you want one simple test, here it is. When your interests are threatened, do you still keep your inner boundary of kindness and honesty? When you are emotionally triggered, do you still protect your speech from harming others? When desire rises, do you still remember consequences? These moments are where character is trained, not in a quiet room alone, but in the heat of life. Here is the third habit: scattered mind and constant outward chasing. This habit is everywhere. It is not just phones, though phones are powerful. It is the mental habit of constantly leaning outward, always searching for stimulation, always looking for novelty, always wanting more information, more entertainment, more validation. The mind becomes like a monkey in a market. It grabs, it drops, it grabs again. Then you sit down to practice and you wonder why you cannot focus. You wonder why your heart feels unstable. You wonder why you feel a strange irritation, like your nervous system is buzzing. A scattered mind is not a small inconvenience. It is the soil in which many other unwholesome habits grow. When the mind is scattered, it cannot see itself clearly. When it cannot see itself, karma runs on autopilot. And when karma runs on autopilot, fate feels like something happening to you rather than something you are shaping. So what is the medicine? Not a dramatic lifestyle change that collapses in 3 days. The medicine is a small, consistent ritual of returning to breath, returning to the present, returning to the body, returning to a vow, returning to compassion. There is a method I often share because it is simple and it works in real life. When you feel the impulse to react, to speak, to grab your phone, to lash out, to defend, to win, pause for 3 breaths. 3 breaths is short, but it is long enough to shift from automatic reaction into awareness. Awareness gives you choice. Choice breaks the chain. And the moment the chain breaks, your fate begins to change direction. Here is the 4th habit: anger and impatience, especially the habit of reacting in the first second. Anger is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet bitterness. Sometimes it is sarcasm. Sometimes it is that look you give someone that makes them feel small. Sometimes it is the inner courtroom where you replay the argument and prove you were right. The danger of anger is not only that it hurts relationships, it is that it burns merit. It burns clarity. It burns the ability to feel joy in simple things. Many people say, I have practiced for years, but I am still angry. The issue is not that practice does nothing. It is that anger is being fed daily. The mind rehearses irritation like a sport. The mind keeps a list of who offended it. The mind keeps returning to the story of being wronged. If you want to transform anger, you do not begin by forcing yourself to be sweet. You begin by noticing the first spark. The first spark is where the power is. Once anger becomes a fire, you need a lot of water. But when it is only a spark, you can blow it out with one mindful breath. Let me tell you a story that might sound small, but it is exactly how cultivation becomes real. A woman, let us call her Aya, told me she could stay calm in a temple setting, but at home, she turned into someone she did not like. Her child spilled something. She snapped. Her partner forgot something. She snapped. The message from work came late. She snapped. Then she felt guilty, and the guilt made her practice feel heavy. One evening she tried the 3-breath pause. Her child knocked a cup. The old habit rose. He trudged into her chest. Words were ready to jump. And then she remembered. 3 breaths. She stood still. She inhaled slowly. She exhaled. She inhaled again. In those 3 breaths, something astonishing happened. She saw her own fear underneath the anger. Fear of being overwhelmed. Fear of not being respected. Fear that she was failing. She saw the fear, and the anger softened. She still cleaned the spill. She still corrected the child. But her voice did not become a blade. That night she cried again, but this time it was not from exhaustion, it was from relief. She said, "I finally felt what practice is. It is not a performance, it is a turning." That is how anger becomes a doorway to awakening, not by denying it, but by seeing it early and choosing differently. Here is the fifth habit: comparison envy, the habit of measuring yourself against others and losing your own path. Comparison is a thief. It steals gratitude, it steals joy, it steals concentration, and it steals the unique unfolding of your own life. In spiritual life, comparison becomes especially toxic. You compare your progress, you compare your experiences, you compare how calm you look, you compare how disciplined you are. Then you either become arrogant or discouraged. Either way, your heart is no longer resting in sincerity. It is chasing an image. Envy is often painful, so people hide it under rational words. They say, "I just want to improve." But improvement is not the same as comparison. Improvement is walking your path. Comparison is staring sideways until you fall. The antidote here is a practice many traditions praise because it opens the heart and breaks the tight fist of ego. Rejoicing in the good of others. This does not mean you pretend you feel happy when you do not. It means you train a new direction. You say, "May their goodness increase. May their blessings become a cause for my inspiration, not my bitterness." When you do this consistently, something shifts. You stop living in a world where everyone is a rival. You start living in a world where goodness can spread. That is not naive. That is karmic intelligence. Because a mind that rejoices is a mind that expands. And a mind that expands becomes capable of real compassion. Here is the sixth habit: indulgence and laziness. Especially the habit of relying on bursts of motivation instead of steady cultivation. Many people begin with fire. They feel inspired. They attend talks. They sit to meditate. They recite. They journal. They feel hope. Then life becomes busy. The fire fades. They miss a day. Then they miss a week. Then they feel ashamed. And shame becomes another reason to avoid practice. This is why steady cultivation matters. Practice is not built by emotional highs. It is built by repeated returning, even short returning. If you can do 10 minutes daily, it is better than 2 hours once in a while. Why? Because the mind is trained by frequency, not drama. A little daily effort is like water that shapes stone. The stone does not resist. It simply changes over time. Indulgence is not only about comfort. It can also be about entertainment, food, endless scrolling, fantasies, impulsive spending, and anything you use to avoid inner silence. Silence is where you meet yourself. And if you avoid meeting yourself, you avoid awakening. So the question becomes simple. Do you want comfort that ends quickly? Or do you want freedom that lasts? Here is the seventh habit: harmful speech. The habit of leaking blessings through the mouth. People underestimate speech. They say, "I only said a few words." But words carry intention. Words shape relationships. Words shape mental habits. Words are karma in motion. There are many ways speech becomes harmful without sounding obviously cruel. Gossip, mockery, subtle humiliation, stirring conflict between people while pretending you are only being honest, criticizing others' spirituality to feel superior, speaking cynically about goodness until your own heart grows cold. When speech becomes sharp, it creates an echo chamber of sharpness. The mind begins to interpret life through suspicion and contempt. Then peace becomes hard. Trust becomes hard. Gratitude becomes hard. If you want a practice that changes your life quickly, train the mouth. not by becoming silent forever, but by becoming deliberate. Before you speak, ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it the right time? Even if you remember only one of these questions, it will save you from creating unnecessary harm. And each time you restrain harmful speech, you preserve energy. That energy becomes clarity. Clarity becomes wisdom. Wisdom becomes compassion. Compassion becomes the kind of karma that's often's destiny. Here is the 8th habit: unstable reliance, disrespect, and chasing trends instead of deep roots. Some people treat spiritual life like shopping. They collect teachers, techniques, and slogans the way they collect apps. When something feels exciting, they rush toward it. When the excitement fades, they drop it. This is not growth. This is restlessness wearing spiritual clothing. Deep change comes from deep roots. Roots are built through humility, respect, and consistent learning under wholesome guidance. This does not mean blind devotion. It means you do not treat the path like a mood. You treat it like a vow. You treat it like a lifelong direction. Now, to make all of this vivid, let me tell you a longer story that ties these habits together. Imagine someone named Aaron. Aaron first approached spirituality because life hurt. Work was not going well. Relationships were unstable. Family pressure felt heavy. He heard that suffering has a cause and a path out. That idea felt like a rope thrown into water. He grabbed it. At first he was enthusiastic. He listened to talks. He visited centers. He learned words like mindful sins, compassion, and karma. He even started to sound wise when he spoke. He posted reflections. People liked them. He felt he had found something. But slowly, the old patterns returned through the back door. He was still bound by this life only. He still believed his value depended on achievement. So every day was a race. Even his practice became another task to win at. When he could not keep up, he felt frustrated. His character loosened in small ways. A little lie to protect his image. A little manipulation in a conversation. A little shortcut at work. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to keep the ego comfortable. His mind was scattered. He woke up and scrolled. He fell asleep with noise. Silence made him uneasy, so he filled space with content. His anger showed up in intimate places. He was polite in public, but at home he was sharp. He treated his family like an emotional dumping ground. He compared himself constantly. When someone advanced spiritually, he felt threatened. When someone struggled, he secretly felt better. He relied on bursts of motivation. He practiced intensely for a week, then disappeared for a month. Each restart felt heavier. His speech became careless. He criticized. He gossiped. He mocked. Sometimes he used spiritual language to justify his harshness. And he was unstable in reliance. He chased new teachers, new methods, new promises of quick transformation. He was always looking for a shortcut, a special key that would bypass daily effort. Then something happened that cracked him open, not in a dramatic mystical way, in a painfully human way. One day his child said something simple. "You are so sincere when you pray outside. Can you be kind to me at home too?" That sentence hit him harder than any sermon. He realized his practice was not landing in life. It was floating above life, like a decoration. That night he sat alone. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just the weight of that sentence. And for the first time, he saw the real enemy. It was not the world. It was not temptation outside. It was the habit of not wanting to see himself. And in that moment, something honest arose. A vow. Not a loud vow, a quiet one. I will stop pretending. I will bring practice into the place I avoid. I will train the mind where it matters. He began with something almost embarrassingly small. When anger rose, he did not speak immediately. He paused 3 breaths. When he wanted to criticize, he swallowed the first sharp sentence and chose us after one. When he felt comparison, he practiced rejoicing for someone else. When he wanted to quit practice because he missed today, he returned anyway, even for 5 minutes. Within weeks, his family felt it, not because he became perfect, but because his direction changed. And here is the secret many people miss. Destiny is not changed by grand spiritual performances. Destiny is changed by direction. A small, consistent turn repeated daily becomes a new karmic river. Now let me bring this back to you in a very direct way. If you are listening and you recognize yourself, maybe in one habit, maybe in several, do not turn this into self-hate. Recognition is not condemnation. Recognition is awakening. The moment you see a pattern clearly, you are no longer completely controlled by it. That is the beginning of freedom. You do not have to fix everything at once. In fact, trying to fix everything at once is another form of ego. It is the ego that wants quick results, so it can feel superior or safe. Instead, choose one place where you leak the most energy. For some people, it is anger. For others, it is speech. For others, it is scattered attention. For others, it is indulgence. For others, it is being bound by worldly fear. Pick one and treat it like your main practice gate for a while. Each day, return to it with mindfulness. Each day, protect it with compassion. Each day, remember karma, not as superstition, but as the simple law that repeated actions shape repeated outcomes. Now I want to offer a closing reflection that may create real resonance. Many of us grew up thinking fate is something written for us, like a label, like a verdict. But spiritual cultivation offers a different view. Fate is a tapestry woven daily by intention, speech, and action. And the most shocking truth is this: you are already practicing something every day. The only question is what you are practicing. Are you practicing reaction or awareness? Are you practicing grasping or letting go? Are you practicing comparison or gratitude? Are you practicing harsh speech or compassionate speech? Are you practicing indulgence or discipline? Are you practicing ego or humility? Even if you never step into a quiet hall, your life is still training your mind. Every conversation is training. Every temptation is training. Every conflict is training. Every moment you choose to pause rather than explode is training. Every time you restrain harmful speech and choose kindness, that is training. Every time you return to your breath, that is training. I have seen people who did not start with perfect conditions. They were busy. They were stressed. They had families. They had debt. They had trauma. And yet, when they began to practice in one small real way, their lives softened, not because problems disappeared overnight, but because their hearts became steadier. And a steady heart makes wiser choices. Wiser choices create better karma. Better karma creates better conditions. Better conditions make deeper practice possible. It becomes a virtuous cycle. Before you leave, I want to invite you into something simple. Reflect on this question. Which habit pulls you away most often? The one that makes you feel like you are regressing even while you try to practice? And what is one small action you can take today, not tomorrow, today, that turns you back toward awakening, wisdom, karma awareness, compassion, and steady cultivation? Share your story in the comments. Tell me the moment you realized you were drifting, and what helped you return. Your honest words might become the reminder someone else needs at the exact right time. If this video spoke to you, subscribe to the channel and stay close. Like the video so more people who are struggling silently can find it. And if you want to support deeper long-form teachings that are practical, ungrounded in everyday life, consider becoming a member. Thank you for being here. Keep returning. Keep choosing awareness. Keep walking the path. At the end of the day, we all need something that brings us back to ourselves. Something that reminds us to slow down, breathe, and stay centered. Simple bracelet can do exactly that. Every bead you touch brings your mind back to calm, back to clarity, back to the present moment. If one of the bracelets you just saw resonates with you, you can find the purchase link in the video description and explore more beautiful styles in our channel store. Let the one meant for you find its way to your wrist.